Grace and peace, grace and peace. How you guys doing tonight? See, I like the way I'm changing it up a little bit. Got the new news intro, got the little news background playing, you know what I'm saying? But as y'all come on in, y'all know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button. Nice little topic. I would say nice. I mean, it's kind of sad, but you know, it's gonna be talking about this particular interesting article that I came across. All right. Oh, and Grace and Peace Don't Get Bible Club, who has sent me the super chat. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It says congrats on the 14K subs. Sorry. Yes, thank you. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Don't Get Bible Club. I haven't seen you in a minute. We also got my sis Lakeisha in the house. Go ahead and give her a hand clap. We got Stevie Rankins. We got Susie Q. And that's about it right now. That's about it. All right. But like I was saying, this is a pretty interesting story that I came across. And I saw this a couple of days ago. I wasn't going to review it. I was just like, you know, it's just one of hundreds of news articles that I come across daily. So I said, maybe I won't cover it. But I started kind of seeing it trending a little bit. So I said, well, let me go ahead and read this article and see what this is all about. And apparently, this is a case of whodunit. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. But y'all already know what to do as we are letting people come on in. I'm asking a question. Only on YouTube. The poll only on YouTube. And I'm asking, are you guys familiar with this story? So far, 17% of you say yes. 67% of you say no. And 17% of you say vaguely. Alright, so yeah, I mean, for some reason, I thought that I was the only one, you know, who may have known about this story, you know. But some of you guys said that you have heard about it. Alright. But enough of my babbling. Let's go ahead and get into this article. Hold on one second. Let me do this. I'm trying to make sure that I'm streaming on Instagram. Oh, turn that down. All right, there we go. Okay, so this is from the ChristianPost.com. And the title says, Pastor says his mentally troubled wife died by suicide, but some refuse to believe. That's why I said this is kind of interesting. Because y'all know that we've been talking about mental illness, and John MacArthur has been under fire recently for basically saying there's no such thing as mental illness. Bruh. In so many words, and we already covered that of, you know, exactly what he said in his proper context. So I kind of don't want to, you know, misrepresent John MacArthur, but the whole mental health, mental illness thing has kind of been a hot topic so far. And that's why I thought that bringing out this particular article was, I think it was kind of fitting, especially with all of that going on. And then also I've been talking with some other brothers or sisters of mine where the question came up where my daughter is friends with another brother and his daughter. And the question came up, can a Christian commit suicide and still make it into the kingdom? So there's been, you know, for me on my end concerning mental health and and suicide and all of that stuff. So let's go ahead and see what Susie Q says. Susie Q says, according to the husband, it was a suicide. According to the wife's family, it was murder or red rum. We're going to say red rum. Allegedly, it looked like a Clinton job. All right, now hold on, Susie Q. Before I read this, now hold on. We ain't gonna talk about Pope John MacArthur now. It's a man of God now. That's a man of God. Let's see what Susie Q got to say. She says, honestly, J Mac has held that position for many decades. All right, there we go. There we go. All right. Good old man of God. Predestined. Chosen by God. All right, let's go ahead and get back into this article. Police in North Carolina are investigating the death of Mika Miller, the wife of Pastor John Paul Miller of Solid Rock at Market Common in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, who was found with a bullet wound to her head at Lumber River State Park in Robeson County last Saturday as her widower comes under a barrage of suspicion online. Major Damian McLean of Robeson County Sheriff's Office told ABC 15 News that officers are gathering information from people who knew the late 30-year-old pastor's wife to understand how she died. Quote, let me not skip this part. Last Sunday, just hours after her body was found, Pastor Miller announced to his congregation in a viral video that his wife died by suicide, even though investigators have not yet confirmed an official cause of death. Grace and peace, Spanish fly, grace and peace. So the pastor is saying that, yeah, this is suicide, but the investigators are just like, you may want to hold on that, bruh. We ain't done with our investigation. So I don't know. This is, I don't know. That's all I got to say. I don't know. Grace and peace, buddy. Grace and peace. Quote, after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building. Please, if you can, he said. My request to you is that you continue to come to church and serve for the next little bit because I'm taking a little bit of a break and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be for a few days or a few weeks. I don't know, he said. I got a call late last night. My wife passed away. Yeah, it was self-induced and it was up in North Carolina. He added, noting that a funeral will be held for her at the church 3 p.m. on May 5th. Actually, that was yesterday. I don't know. Does anybody know if this funeral has already happened? If you guys know that, go ahead and let me know in the chat. Has this funeral already happened? Yeah, I may want to look that up. Quote, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for my kids and everybody. Y'all knew she wasn't well. She wasn't mentally well and she needed medicine. That was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come. So just keep our family in your prayers, end quote. Now, that's a lot of stuff to be talking about in a sermon right after your wife passed, especially if it is a self-inflicted thing. I mean, it kind of seemed like he mansplaining a little bit. I don't know. It's like, well, y'all knew she wasn't mentally well and she needed some medicine and it was kind of hard to get that medicine to her. But he said, I'm sure there'll be more details. Oh, it's going to be some more details, all right. We gonna see. Some members of Mika Miller's family, like her sister Sierra Francis, quickly rejected the idea that she had killed herself and suggested she was abused. Quote, there's a lot of talk already going on, so I want to set the record straight. Our sister Mika Miller passed away yesterday. Please do not listen to false stories being shared about her, Francis noted on Facebook. Mika was a God-fearing, joyful, loving woman who did not deserve the abuse she endured. If you hear anything about this from anyone other than her family, please question it. Reach out to her siblings or parents. Ooh, she didn't even mention the she didn't even mention the hubby. Keep our family in your prayers, and if you have any information that needs to be shared, please contact one of us. Please respect us in this time and honor her memory with joy that she is no longer suffering. Hashtag justice for Mika. End quote. Lakeisha said, I'm surprised he made it to church. He could have had another preacher step in for him. Yeah, and that's the thing, too, because I think we're going to get ready to read this next part, which is a lot of people's questions. This point that you guys are bringing up, a lot of people have been asking that particular question. Stevie Rankin says, why was he pastoring right after her death? I would be devastated. I mean, I had to hit that one. That's inquiring minds want to know. Speculation about Mika Miller's death has spread like wildfire on social media. Some critics openly question why Pastor Miller was in the pulpit hours after his wife's death. Now, okay. All right. I will say this. Okay. If I'm going to play opponent's advocate here, maybe he's just a guy who just wants to be transparent and he just wants to get ahead of this and he wants to get in front of this before everybody starts to make their own speculations, X, Y, and Z. I mean, maybe this is something that was self-inflicted. Maybe his wife was suffering from some sort of mental illness and she did this to herself. And perhaps, because I've heard cases to where some people can be in such shock to where like it doesn't really hit them, like full on right then and there. Sometimes it takes a while for it to settle in before they actually realize what is going on. You see what I'm saying? Woof. Lakeisha said, "Boo, boo, boo." He didn't have to show up. Bruh. She trying to silence me already. She's like, hush your mouth. You hush your mouth. Susie Q says, I found an article about the memorial. Okay, so they did have the they did have the funeral yesterday. All right. Court records cited by the New York Post show that Mika Miller filed for divorce from her husband in October 2023, but the reasons were not stated. The case was eventually dismissed in February, but a few days later, Pastor Miller filed for, quote, separate support and maintenance, end quote, seeking financial support. Mika Miller would file for similar support in April. The hearing was scheduled for June 5th. Okay, so wait. Okay. So they both filed for separate support and maintenance, seeking financial support. So what do they say? So y'all help me out with this. I guess the pastor said that, okay, I want to separate from you, but I still need you to pay me, or I still need some type of financial compensation while we're separated. And she was saying the same thing. Is that what I'm reading here? Because I've never heard of that. I've never heard of a person filing for separation, but still wanting financial support as a man. I don't think I've ever heard of that, from a man, especially a pastor. So I don't know. That's just, that seems kind of weird to me. But if y'all have ever heard of that, go ahead, type a 1, type a 2 if you have not. In an interview with the Christian Post on Friday, Pastor Miller admitted that his relationship with Mika began with adultery. He said they were both previously married and cheated on their spouses, and many people left his church, forcing them to start over. He said he and Mika got married in 2017. Shortly after, she underwent surgery for an undisclosed reason and was diagnosed with bipolar 2, schizophrenic and dependent personality disorder. Hold up. Okay. This is a prime example of how destructive sin is. This is a prime example. This guy was previously married to another lady. And this new wife, this lady right here who is now deceased, they were seeing each other while they both had spouses. So then they divorced, and he turns around and starts another church with this lady. And come to find out, she is bipolar, schizophrenic, and dependent personality disorder. So she's been diagnosed with some mental issues. Okay. They turn around, they get married. Stuff is not working out. He turned around and they both filed for divorce. They want to separate from each other. So I'm pretty sure at this time of her death, she's passed away. I mean, I'm sorry. At the time of her death, they were separated. All right. So it seems like that they were not together during this time. Okay. Now, this is where I got to play opponent's advocate again. Because, and y'all forgive me for this, if this guy was already a dirtbag to his past wife, who's to say that this guy is not a dirtbag to his current deceased wife? To where maybe he did not harm this lady. Maybe he didn't do it physically, but with him having such a dirtbag mindset of him just like, oh, well, in a way, I'm just kind of glad that she's gone. That could be the mindset of this guy. And that's probably why he's just like, hey, it really don't matter to me that she's dead. I'm just glad. I mean, I wanted my divorce. I got my divorce. Now I can move on. She's dead. Maybe in a way, he's kind of celebratory over this. So it might not mean that he's actually guilty of anything. He's probably just a reprobate. But this is how destructive sin is. And that's why we talk about how the devil is prowling around like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. He's destroyed 2 marriages. He's destroyed the first marriage. No, actually 3. He destroyed the first marriage of the husband of Pastor John Miller. He destroyed the marriage of the woman that his current deceased wife, the guy who she was married to, he destroyed that marriage. And then he destroyed this marriage between both of them. And now the kids have to grow up without a mom. And, this guy is trying to go on about his life. And like I said, most likely he's probably just like, hey, I'm just relieved that she's gone. So now I don't have to go through this nasty divorce and all of this stuff here. I don't know. It's sad. It really is. It's really, really sad. But this, again, this is the reality of how destructive sin is. And this is coming from a guy who claims to be a pastor. Y'all know I get passionate about this stuff. This guy claims to be a pastor. Who the heck laid hands on you and gave you the green light to open up another church? I wonder who was the person who he was up under that said, you know what, I think it's a good idea for you to start another church. I don't know. I mean, just the state of our current church in the West, the way things operate in the church today in the West, it's just mind-boggling to me. But let me not get too triggered. Let's go ahead and let's at least finish the article before I start to go off. Since 2017, says Pastor Miller, they have been trying to manage his wife's mental illness with lithium and significant support. As long as she took her medication, Pastor Miller said his wife would be fine. Mika, however, had a roller coaster relationship with the medication. He recalled how she would complain how the medication would make her gain weight or cause her to slur. And earlier this year, the wife of a well-meaning pastor friend who had no understanding of mental illness ordered to pray and believe that Mika Miller's mental illness would go away. That incident, he said, stuck with Mika, and she started to believe that she no longer needed the medication. So here's the question. Here's another question, because remember, John MacArthur has been under fire for his stance about mental health and doping people up because some doctor said that, hey, you have some mental illness, now you have to take these pills. The question is, when the patient or a person says, hey, I don't know if I want these pills because I'm having some really bad reactions to this, I don't think I need this, should we now hold that person to the same standard that we would a person like John MacArthur, who basically says there's no such thing as mental illness? So are we trusting the doctors or are we trusting the patient? Because she's clearly saying that, hey, I don't want to take this anymore. Should we be forced, or should people be forced to take medication because a doctor has prescribed it? And when we're talking about mental illness, like John MacArthur brought up, are we talking about something that may be spiritual going on, or is it something that just need to be counseled? Or do we actually need to be giving people pills and suppressing whatever's going on? I mean, it's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions. Rebuke and reprove, grace and peace, grace and peace. Susie Q says, calls her to slur. She was probably being over medicated. And that's the thing too. I mean, you got to start asking all these type of questions. Was the dosage too heavy? I mean, if this lady is a mother and she's just like, hey, when I take these pills, it kind of disconnects me from the world, and I don't want to be like that around my children. What do we do with that? Lakeisha says going on and off medication can have serious side effects. Yeah, and I agree. I've heard of that too. You know, people on medication 1 minute, then they take it, then they stop, then they take it, then they stop. So he recalled how she would complain. I'm sorry, I already read that. Quote, I took care of her through, I took care of her through every time she went to the mental institute. That must be a typo. I took care of her every time she stopped taking her lithium. I would never expose this stuff of her if I didn't have to now, but every time she tried to kill herself, I would be there. I would literally sometimes pick her up physically and put her in the truck to take her to the hospital, Miller said with a slight crack in his voice. The pastor said he took his wife to probate court a few weeks ago to get her hospitalized, but the court stated that she wasn't a danger to others, so she could not be forced. Quote, nobody believed me when I told them that she was having a psychotic break. She would have never left. She would have never done what she did. They wouldn't believe me. I have 48 text messages that I sent out saying she needs her lithium. Somebody help me, please. And no one believed me. End quote, the thriving pastor said. Wow. Grace and peace to this day. Grace and peace to this day. I'm sorry. Yeah. This is the day. Sorry, why did I say to this day? This is the day. Says, this is sad. I know a family member who used medication for their bipolar issues and it made them into a robot. They stopped after a couple of weeks. Man. It's like, it's easy for me to be an armchair quarterback and be like, well, this is what I would have did. Well, this is what he should have done. But I mean, to really deal with someone who may be struggling mentally, I think that's a challenge that, unless you've actually dealt with it, I think that you would have to be a person to witness that firsthand in order to know how you would react to such situation. Because just like Lakeisha said, each situation is different. Some may need medication, some may not. I do think we should ask questions and have a discussion with the doctor, not just take the pill because the doctor says so. And correct. That's I'm going to give her a horn for that. I totally agree with that. I totally agree. But then the next question comes about when the husband is saying that, yo, she needs her medicine because I've had to deal with her with certain episodes, her spazzing out. I've had to try to keep her from killing herself a couple of times. And now look, it's, I don't know. Just what do you do in a situation? Susie Q says, I've been medicated for bipolar after a traumatic event. It was awful. Robot isn't even the right word. More like a zombie. What I really needed and what helped was a lot of counseling. Right. And then I could go on about this, but let me go ahead and get back to this article. Quote, everybody thought I was a demon for trying to take her to probate court and get her put in a hospital. I told her family, I have text messages over and over. I told her family she needs her medicine. They told me I'm crazy. She doesn't need any medicines. I messaged her, but they sent her saying it makes you fat, or it makes you slur, or you shouldn't take your meds, or you just need something holistic. You don't need what the doctors say. Uh-oh. How many of y'all agree with that? All right, because remember, John MacArthur was basically saying the same thing, and he's under fire for that. So I want to know, how many of you agree that when it comes to mental health, that people should look more into holistic stuff, and that they really don't need to be taking a whole bunch of these medications coming from these doctors? Grace and peace, Sheila Mahone. Grace and peace. We got a supporter up in the house. Thank you, sis, for showing up. Thank you, sis. All right, let's continue. Though there were some things that Pastor Miller said were discussed at his church, the depths of his struggle with his wife's mental illness felt quite lonely at times. Quote, nobody believed me. Nobody understood mental illness. She was diagnosed by the doctors for the past 7 years. Bipolar 2, schizophrenic, and dependent personality disorder. And I was with her every time she thought she was seeing aliens. I was with her every time she thought artificial intelligence was after her. I was with her through everything. And the last psychotic episode she had, she didn't know who I was, he explained. She thought that I was the enemy somehow. Nobody believed me. Everybody thought that she was just a normal being herself. She was normal being herself, and nobody understood. With her mental illness, people understand that she can say a sentence that's normal. In the very next sentence, she'd say with the same cadence, the same tone, and it will be completely abnormal, which is why people didn't understand. She'd say, I want to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and after that, I'm going to learn how to fly, end quotes. But then again, if you know that your wife is going through this, why the heck are you filing for divorce if you know that this lady is already mentally unstable? Because if you're truly a Christian, especially a pastor, and you know the qualifications for being a pastor, then why the heck are you trying to divorce her and then try to take money from her during the separation? That's what makes this whole thing so suspect. If I knew that my wife was mentally ill, that's when the compassion would come out more. I would be like, listen, I know that whatever my wife and I is going through, I don't need to be divorcing her at this moment in her life. Because if I'm so scared that she's going to kill herself, then why would I divorce her, let her go on about her business, where I know that the possibility of her is killing herself is greater than her being with me? That's just what makes it so suspect. I don't know, man. Man. The Reverend Charles Randall, Pastor Mike Miller's spiritual advisor, told CP that, quote, basically social media is very wicked in saying things and lying about the situations. Lying about the situation, things that they are not aware of, end quote. He said he has known Miller for a long time and was one of his teachers in high school. He also said he had been counseling Mika and Pastor Miller since September 2023 and was not aware of any abuse. He acknowledged there was, quote, a little bump in the road, end quote, during efforts to restore their marriage, but did not disclose what that bump was. Quote, I live by the Holy Spirit of God. If God would lead me to remove him, I will do that. It has not happened at this time. As far as the abuse, they are lying about that. There was no abuse, Randall told CP. Now, here's the thing. Now, he's contemplating whether or not he should remove this guy. But why would you really ordain? Because I don't know if he's the person that instructed or kind of gave the green light or he laid hands on him in order to get his church that he's pastoring now. I don't know if he was the guy to say, yeah, I think you should start a church. But I think that even if Pastor Miller had already had a church, this spiritual advisor guy should have been told him to step down or had a serious conversation about him being a pastor, just given his past. And this whole thing about Pastor Miller and his wife wanted to separate and divorce, I think that he probably should have said, hey, listen, until you straighten this out, maybe you need to take a step back. Maybe he should have thought about removing him then. So basically what this spiritual advisor is saying is that, well, I'm going to wait and see if the Holy Spirit is telling me to remove him. Me personally, I believe that the Holy Spirit would have said, maybe you need to have a serious conversation with this guy. And maybe he shouldn't be pastoring and leading anyone in any type of church setting at all. But he says in a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines. Amen. All right. Let's continue. Quote, as far as working with him, I've been working with them closely since last September on their marriage. They did have a little bump in the road, no abuse, and he was working on that. The marriage was in the process of being restored, end quote. Randall said he was with Pastor Miller the night he got the call about his wife's death. And despite what people thought about his preaching last Sunday, he was quote unquote tore up. Quote, he was very tore up when we got the news. I was with him on Saturday night when he received the news. Very, 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 very tore up over it because he loved his wife very much. If the naysayers would tell the truth, they would know how much he did and tried to please his wife, Randall said. The same people that are lying and saying he mistreated his wife, even the family members, he offered to pay for every family member to travel from wherever they are, wherever they live, to bring them here, pay for their accommodations, and take care of them to honor his wife during this time. And they are in the streets, some of them, I believe, lying about what he is doing. Uh-oh. Hey. So again, there's always, who was that? Let me go back up to Buddy. It's like Buddy said, hey, the The first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines. Because now we're getting another side of the story, and there's a guy who's just like, listen, I was there with the guy when he got the call. And he was broken up about it. So you can say whatever you want about him going to preach the next day. But it was like he was pretty tore up about it. So that's why I'm just like, it does seem a little strange. It does seem a little strange that this guy would get up like the next day and go in front of his congregation and preach to them. But then at the same time, it's just so much, man. It's just so much I can get into. It's just so much. There's a lot of speculation, but at the end of the day, as Christians, we must be about truth. We must be about facts and evidence or whatever is presented to us, because we know that we can all go down the whole rabbit hole of speculation as into why he did what he did, and, you know, who's lying, who's telling the truth, and what's the family's motives and all of that stuff. Randall said rumors online that the pastor has already started dating are not true. Uh-oh. Ooh. The plot thickens. Dang. Now, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's already dating, because if he was already trying to divorce his wife, who's to say that he hasn't already been seeing someone on the side? And now that his wife is dead, he's just like, hey, you know, according to scripture, I got a dead wife, so I can go out and I can remarry. I can do whatever I want to do now. And maybe it's just not really bothering him that much to where he was just like, yeah, we was already trying to split up anyway. And I mean, with her being dead, hey, I don't have to go through all of this court stuff. I can go ahead and be whoever I want to be. When asked why Mika Miller wanted to leave her marriage, Randall said Mika did not even tell him she was filing for a divorce. Quote, she did not relay that to me, he said. Randall further noted that he couldn't remember the last time he counseled the couple together and was never told why Mika wanted to end her marriage. Pastor Miller had promised to answer additional questions from CP, but noted that after talking with his attorney, he was advised not to speak further because he was getting death threats. Randall also noted protesters are expected at Mika's funeral on Sunday. And that is the end of this particular article. And I mean, she was not a bad looking lady, you know? And I mean, he's not a bad looking guy. Pause. I mean, they look like they were a beautiful couple. You know, a young couple. Let me see. Okay, so she's 30. Let me see. How old was he? How old was he? I thought they said that he was kind of like in his mid-30s or something like that. Man. What does Sheila say? She says, did you see the man pull the gun on the pastor at the gun jam when tried to shoot? Nope, didn't see that. It's hard with the mind. It's easy to make someone else look and feel unhinged. But at the same time, the mind can easily be broken. Saying there's no mental issues is like saying there's no cancer. Yeah, and that's where, I mean, I ain't even going to lie. You know, that's why even with John MacArthur, I'm kind of like, you know, I don't know if I totally agree with his stance on mental illness being basically just kind of this farce. But at the same time, I mean, there's been some receipts pulled up from some people who were psychologists or people who've had degrees in this field of study. And they're just like, no, if I'm being honest, there's really no way to measure mental health issues. I mean, you know, you could prescribe somebody a pill and yeah, it'll work. It'll put somebody in an altered state of mind, but there's really no way to properly diagnose if a person has a mental illness. Because people talk about quote unquote chemical imbalances. And from what I've heard, this is what I've heard, there ain't no chemicals to balance. Right? And I heard that, you know, people who say that, oh, you know, it's a chemical imbalance and all of that stuff, they can't really tell you exactly what those chemicals are and what the balance looks like. Grace and peace, Tony. Grace and peace. We got another supporter up in the house. Up in the house. Y'all talking about this man who tried to get shot, or this man who tried to shoot the pastor? Man. So what y'all saying? Y'all saying that I need to cover that? Y'all saying I need to cover that? I ain't gonna cover it tonight. I ain't covering that tonight. But I don't know. I'm gonna see. Yeah, Kiana Shaw says exactly. There's no medical test. And again, just going with the facts and information. Because again, as Christians, we got to be about truth. We got to be about truth. If there are people who are in the field who says that there is no medical test for mental illness, and people are prescribing people pills and they're saying that I'm doing it based on quote unquote chemical imbalance or quote unquote mental issues, then it's like we got to really start questioning some of these things and saying, okay, well, what's really going on? Is it big pharma? Are people just dealing with more spiritual things nowadays than ever? Do people need medicine? Do people need holistic care? Or do people just simply need prayer and counseling? Because, I mean, when we look at this particular situation, can we ask ourselves a question and be honest to say that could this situation have been avoided with proper prayer and proper biblical counseling? You see what I'm saying? Stephen Rankin says, Sheila Alton needs to get his subscribers the horn or bell or something. I feel left out. Listen, I've been telling y'all, people with this badge, they're going to get that horn and they're going to get that hand clap. Now, I appreciate the subscribers. But these folks with that badge, I mean, all I got to say is, will a man rob God? That's all I got to say. See, the people with that badge, and I wish these dogs would shut up, but the people with that badge, see, they put a little something in that collection plate. You see what I'm saying? So when you see this badge right here, that means there's something in that plate. All right? So, of course, they gonna get that horn and they gonna get that hand clap. All right? Now, I got the music playing. You know, now you can go ahead and click join now at the bottom on YouTube. All right? You can put something in the collection plate, too. You gonna get that horn and badge, too. All right? The music playing, y'all feeling the spirit. But listen, man, I'm about to get ready to get up out of here. But yeah, y'all go ahead and keep this conversation going, because I think I did want to kind of do like a, maybe like a short video on my other channel, just kind of going through the whole mental illness thing to see if the Bible supports mental illness, or is the Bible just strictly about, if this is like spiritual warfare that we're going through. Could there be a case for mental illness? And if so, if there is a case for mental illness biblically, how do we deal with that? Would it be safe to medicate somebody, or should we just be seeking biblical counseling and more holistic things? But it said, you mentioned they had children. I wonder what they have to say about this. Yeah, and they probably got young children, because I mean, if she's 30, I don't think that she has any teenagers or anything like that. But I think that these are kids who are probably going to grow up. Well, not probably, but they are going to grow up without their mother, you know. And then, of course, I believe that their father is going to end up with another woman. So now that plays a factor, and all of the stuff that's coming out about their past. It's like, how is that going to have an effect on those children's faith growing up, to where they're just like, y'all know, we hear it a lot. I grew up in the church and I seen this and I seen that, and that's why I'm an atheist. That's why I'm a Hebrew Israelite. That's why I'm a this, that, and the third. I'm a everything besides Christian. That's why I don't follow Jesus and I don't follow that Bible. But like I said earlier, this is how sin destroys families. This is how it could potentially destroy your family or your life if you are not careful, if you are not repentant. You know, Ja Tony says, dude did it because he was jealous she was leaving. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Spanish Fly said, I can't afford the badge right now, but I can super chat sometimes. All right, come on now. Just, you know. Now again, now when you can, and you hear this, I want to know, Spanish Fly, will a man rob God? Will a man rob God? I'm just messing with y'all. But no, I seriously do thank you guys. I seriously do thank you guys for who are able to support. You know what I'm saying? Because it does help out. You know, although the Lord has blessed me with a pretty good job, and been able to take care of my family and stuff. But it does help out because like some of this stuff, I mean, I probably pay a few $100 a month just to be able to do video edits, the live streaming material, the music that y'all hear. I mean, all of this stuff, you know, it costs a little bit of money to keep it running. You know what I'm saying? So by you guys' continued support, for those who do support, that does help. That it does help out, you know. So thank you guys. And you know, even you guys who are, you know, you are just subscribers. I thank you guys for the support as well. But listen, man, I'm about to get ready to get up out of here. And y'all know the spiel. Before we get ready to get up out of here, y'all like this video, rate it, share it, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you are subscribed and you haven't done so yet. And listen, I will see you guys next time. Lord willing, peace.